Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the Without Context podcast. I know releases have been, touch and go here a little bit, but sometimes that just happens.
Starting to be that time of the year also. So we're gonna...
It started to be like that with Call of Another Deep 2, which is kind of sad because we had like a really cool thing going. We were mostly consistent for like 13 episodes, and it's like, oh, nope, holidays. It's like, oh, right, those exist.
This is the time of the year.
I already made a...
Yeah, this is the time of the year where all the uploads are going to start getting a little sporadic with everybody's schedules and all that.
I already made a short about that. Yeah, I already made a short about that on the YouTube channel, and you've probably seen it with the traction it got for no reason, really.
Yeah.
But today we have X with us to talk about AEW's Dynamite from yesterday, and kind of I want to say kind of a progress report a little bit, if we can get to it, about Triple H's WWE while we're at it.
Yeah, it's been about 2-3 weeks since our last gathering here for a wrestling episode.
Yeah, right around that time, AEW turned into an episode of Dragon Ball Z.
Yep.
And it's calmed down a little bit. I wouldn't say it's calmed all the way down. But, growing pains. 3-year-old company, it happens.
Yeah.
I remember the last time we gathered, it was just after, it was like the Dynamite, both a couple of weeks after the whole thing with CM Punk and Kenny Omega.
I think it was
like a week or two.
I think it was the one that week. Like, it was the Sunday, and then we recorded on that Wednesday.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
I think we recorded before Dynamite, so we didn't get to actually talk about, like, the first episode post incident, but there has been some stuff about it. There has been like reports here and there about it, so there's definitely some stuff to talk about.
All right. First, I would like to talk about Dynamite, which was yesterday. We have the rare opportunity on a Thursday to actually talk about a Dynamite after it's happened.
Yeah, in the last few weeks we've been trying to scramble because we had a list of topics and guests, and they've had stuff come up, so we were trying to scramble to get guests and everything on, and that's why the last few uploads haven't been completely on time. But we were able to sit down today with X and actually get a post Dynamite conversation. I guess Deck, if you want to start with your thoughts about it.
So I watched most of it. I think all in all I liked what I saw. I think Dynamite's doing... So what Dynamite used to do with me is I would be super interested in like the lower card and towards the mid card, and then towards the end I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna tune out now. Now it's the other way around for me, where it's like the lower card is kind of like whatever to me for the most part, because they just frankly have too many stories that they have to go through. And the upper card going, I actually really like the altercation that that John Moxley and Hangman Adam Page had. It was really well done.
One of the better promos of Page's career so far in AEW.
For sure.
It's definitely brought some fire back to him, because he's kind of been in this weird place since losing the title, where he's been involved in feuds, but he hasn't been the focus of feuds. Mm-hmm. He hasn't really gotten like into that upper echelon of the performers again to be in the title picture. He's always been kind of in a situation with Andrade and Rush and Ten and Dark Order, and everything after the CM Punk incident. There's kind of been this weird feeling about Page, like, why is he still on TV? He started this, but he didn't. It is literally just Punk being an asshole. Yeah, we know that now.
We know that.
So it's
kind
like,
of knew that already.
But what gets me is the fact that we are seeing
the territory.
Yeah, what gets me is we are seeing this much of Adam Page post-incident.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which we're actually... What gets me is the last few Dynamites have been pretty solid, and they've been missing a lot of their big players, which goes back to something I talked about when AEW first started. They had to have a really strong mid-card. Like, even losing Malachi Black for his personal reasons and everything, and Andrade being suspended for assaulting Sammy Guevara. It's like
Guevara being Sammy Guevara.
You have the Acclaim, who are just like the biggest baby faces in the company right now, with Billy Gunn.
Homegrown talent.
Yeah, I mean, but you're right. There is a lot of stories, because also yesterday was the first time in weeks we saw the Jungle Boy Luchasaurus and Christian story finally get a little bit more progress also.
Yes.
So it's starting to show to me that I do think they need another night of TV.
Yes.
Not necessarily for a brand split, but just to let these
Showcase more talent.
stories.
Or, as I like to call it, what Rampage was supposed to be the purpose of is to continue some of the storylines from AEW Dynamite all the way to AEW Rampage and just kind of connect those two together.
Yeah.
I think I like the idea of like Elevation being what they use for AEW Dark. And I think Dark should be that, like Dark should be, or the other way around, really, either or. But one of those online shows should be a spot where they push storylines along, and it's not just a bunch of matches for 45 minutes.
I think Dark or Dark Elevation could be used for actual like storytelling, like an hour episode, like probably like an hour episode a week of just like stories that won't be on TV that week can get a little bit more
exactly.
focus and everything. So it's like, okay, you're going to miss out if you're not watching the YouTube, but
fair enough.
The info is going to be there if you need it.
And it's and like when they bring up the feud again, they'll be like, oh, and this is what you missed on Dark if you missed it, and they'll
previously
have the handy YouTube link.
Previously on AEW Dark, like
also I had an idea. Also, another idea for AEW Dark and Dark Elevation. I was just thinking about this maybe a couple of days ago, where Dark and Dark Elevation could like have their own separate records. If they're still AEW still focusing on the record system, where you can build up talent so they can move their way up to like Dynamite and Rampage, kind of like a ranking system. So, you can continue stories on there, but at the same time, you win enough matches, you start to get featured on Dynamite and Rampage, and you start with like a separate record. So
I like that in theory. I think it would get really complicated. It would get like needlessly complicated.
Yeah, it will.
I like the idea of it.
I like Dark's purpose of bringing in guys from smaller promotions to get wrestling in front of a bigger crowd, while also putting the guys who aren't always on TV like up, and it's like, hey, we're using a ranking system, so here's how we pad it. Like here's how we get stuff going to where we need it to go. So I like that aspect of it. I'm always for, giving these smaller guys kind of a platform to do their stuff. And getting some of like the indie guys, like Warhorse was on there recently, I think. So it's like the popular like people for the fans to see, because
darlings.
I think a live AEW show is like Dark, the show, and then Rampage. Like
it's
recorded.
a lot.
Like it's like
I think they even have Elevation.
Yeah, so
they have Dark Elevation, the show, and then
I
Rampage.
think Dark Elevation's at the studio. They have a studio in Florida that they have all wrestling at. But I think like the actual live shows is like a few Dark matches, and then then Dynamite, and then they tape Rampage afterwards. So that's why Rampage, I guess, kind of feels like it lost the energy, because it's after 3 hours of wrestling by the time the
crowd does feel deflated during Rampage.
And I feel like that's an easy fix by just taping Rampage before Dynamite. So crowd's not there too late, and it'd be about 10 o'clock by the time everybody gets out. But I think there's logistical problems in that Tony Khan doesn't have the WWE money yet. No, he not yet.
So he's gotta work with what he's got, which is, I mean, it's great value for fans who go watch AEW shows, because you get like 6 hours of wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as like going to
it's the
same as going to like a Raw or SmackDown show, where it's like, here's the Dark match, and then they do the weird,
they do like Superstars or
the main event, or like Superstars. It's like back in the day. So they used to do dark matches and stuff like that. So Velocity.
Sunday Night Heat.
Saturday Night Heat.
Sunday Night Heat.
But yeah, like back to, I guess, what led to this, the AEW is still missing a lot of their top names. The Bucks are still out. Omega's still out. They didn't bring Omega back for a Toronto-based show, despite being, Canadian. So it's like, it shows that Tony Khan is serious about these specials. He's like, hey, we're not just going to bring you back because we're in your country. It's like, you are suspended currently. So I like how he's actually holding people to what he has punished them for. He's not starting to show a bit of favoritism towards letting people off early for special reasons, which I think
We do,
it is a sign that he's starting to actually, grow a little bit of balls when it comes to his employees, because a lot of it was CM Punk just walking over him during that media scrim. So
it was rough, hard to watch for that reason.
it was hard to watch. But even without those big names, I mean, the day one guys, Pac and Orange Cassidy, tearing down the house. You had the Acclaim who showed up as, weren't there day one, but they showed up, these annoying heels, and now they're like the biggest baby faces in the company.
They started out on Dark. They were a tag team that started out on Dark. I mean, through the pandemic, they were building themselves up. And then, they come with this idea with the whole scissor me daddy ass thing, and it just blows up out of nowhere. And they sell t-shirts, and they're probably, one of the biggest selling merch sellers on the site now. And it's weird. It's crazy. It's crazy how that happened.
Yeah. And you see, originally Tony Khan had talked about this interview. He had 4 guys that were going to be the first 4 champions, and they were the 4 faces on the All Out poster: Jericho, Omega, Moxley, Page. Those were the 4 guys who were advertised, and it was because these are going to be my first 4 champions. You got Jericho, who is now the Ring of Honor champion, and his story with Garcia and Bryanson is still going on. But the
Ring of Jericho.
The Ring of Jericho. But your main event scene is on the backs of Page and Moxley right now. And the thing is, because it feels like every time we get to a point where MJF's going to be that guy, is involves CM Punk, and CM Punk does something or gets hurt, and MJF falls back down the ladder. And I'm like, I really hope this is leading to, a big moment. Maybe down the line, Page beats Moxley, But it's like, hey, here's the chip. I want this match sanctioned tonight. You build the babyface, in Page, having him lose to MJF, who had just wrestled a opponent who went through a battle with Moxley. That seems like an easy way to get the ultimate heel heat onto MJF and sympathy for Page.
That's what you want to do, given
I don't know
MJF's actions.
Yeah, the thing is, though, it's I don't know what they're going to do, because at GCW, MJF's crew cost Moxley his title. So it's why are we building this Page Moxley feud when there's obviously an MJF Moxley feud being built? And I feel like we're probably being led into a triple threat for the world title.
It's kind of what it's looking like at this point, because, if you've noticed, in all the promos Moxley and Page have been in so far, they made it a point to spotlight MJF up in the box. And I just think they're probably going with that in this direction, because let's face it, the CM Punk situation derailed every bit of plans that they had for MJF and Punk. Okay, it got completely derailed because of that media scrum, which, by the way, I don't think Tony Khan needs to be running any more media scrums anytime soon.
I don't think it would be in best interest. Just have Renee do it. Just have Renee sit there and do it.
Just have Renee there. Just have Renee just recap everything. Who
debuted Wednesday also. So
and her looking good too.
And instantly Twitter is like, oh, I wouldn't even care. She can go over there. Nobody cared. Nobody liked her in Raw or WWE, and I'm like, this is you're capping, because everybody loved Renee.
She was she was the best commentator on Raw.
The moment they're not WWE anymore, everybody hates them.
They just turn on them.
It's oh, WWE is where she got her start, and it's yeah, but she's also an employee. If I quit the Burger King, I'm allowed to work at the McDonald's, because I still need a job.
Yes,
and that's what it's like. That's the level of stupidity. It's hey, you quit Burger King. Why are you working for McDonald's? Because I quit fucking Burger King.
Exactly.
Because I need money, and they're hiring me.
I will never forget. We were talking about the Acclaimed. The one time where they were coming in because they were battling against. They were going up against John Moxley and Eddie Kingston. And they come down. And they're like, check your girl, she all of my mentions, trying to get me up for some oral sessions.
And that's the thing is, I love that Max Caster has the ability to go to be able to do that while keeping it to a limit. but like
Mhm.
it was perfect for
Well-
it was perfect for building heel heat until he went too far, and then Tony Khan did have to talk to him about
Like, hey,
it.
buddy.
Because I think
chill.
he made like I think he made some crude joke that didn't go over well, and
It
put
was
him off
it was
TV for a
something.
while.
Yeah, he was like,
It was I forgot what it was.
He
You're
was
suspended.
suspended. They're suspended, and then when they came back, it was the best thing ever because he comes back with like a scripted rap. It's like,
Yeah.
we like our opponents. We're gonna beat them, and he's like rips it and like does his own thing.
but it's so it's like a very natural growth for those guys. I
Yeah.
mean, Moxley is the ace of AEW. Like I
For
think
sure.
I think as long as AEW exists, he's going to be the guy who, if they're in a bind, the belt will go on him. Probably not
Yes.
to the same level of, ruining future stars like Cena did, but I can see Moxley being the equivalent in AEW. It's like, hey, we need, or the Randy Orton, because Randy Orton is always like, hey, we needed somebody to put the title on. We're going to give it to
Right.
you. You're always a safe bet. Like, Moxley's probably going to be that guy for AEW. Hopefully not to a detrimental amount, but I feel like he's always going to be in that picture.
Yeah, because
Randy was-
he's a definite workhorse.
Yeah, Randy was able to go from like Randy versus Cena, however many they did that, and then like go to like the weird House of Horrors match with Bray Wyatt that I liked.
Yeah, it's
but
like
it's
it's like, hey, Randy, you're the champion. We're going to do this match. We know that you can perform.
yeah,
We know that you can deliver. And I feel like Tony's doing that to Moxley. It's like, hey, I know you can put on a match that is worth it. So just go out there and do your thing.
yeah.
And now
for
he's
sure.
taking on a coaching role. So you do have all these guys in like their early to mid 20s, coming into AEW. Like I think like Kip Sabian is in his 20s, Jungle Boy. So it's like you're having this guy, he's starting to teach this new generation. Hopefully that you don't have to bleed every match. I will say that. But like I hope he is giving them like the advice and everything to, hey, just tell a story while you're out there. Because that's what Moxley can do. He can tell a story.
Moxley is 3 years older than me,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, Moxley's still under 40, so
yeah,
it's crazy because you have that,
he's got plenty of time in the tank.
you have Dustin Rhodes still coaching. It's like they have a good coaching staff. It's just
And then on top of it, you have Regal and Brian Danielson back there also.
yeah.
Brian
So,
Danielson's
chilling.
actively working with talent like Jade Cargill.
but like that was the thing. Like when they had that meeting with the talent and everything, like everybody was talking. Like a bunch of the heads were talking. I think Moxley's going to step into that role of hopefully down the line after enough years, he's like, hey, I'm the Undertaker equivalent. Hey, we're going to settle this here. What are you two, fucking arguing about?
Oh, backstage court.
Yeah,
The
like,
wrestler's
I
court.
think
wrestler's
Moxley's going to be that guy that holds shit together backstage now.
I think so too.
I can see him being that guy because if you listen to him in interviews, he actually has a really good head on his shoulders. Like his character is just like this brawler, but he actually seems like a genuine, nice guy. So I think like he could be the one that people can come to talk about stuff if they need it.
Moxley has like wild beer uncle energy.
He does. He is the drunk uncle that shows up at Christmas and then like drops presents on you.
Yes.
Like,
Yes, for sure.
or he's like, hey, this is the uncle who picks me up from school when nobody else can, and he like shows up in like the souped up like pickup truck.
Shows up in a Rolls Royce for no reason.
Like shows up in the pickup truck, like rock music playing, and he's like, "What's up, champ?" Like he has that uncle energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
But that uncle energy is also still able to teach life lessons to younger, more impressionable people.
I mean, he has the maturity. He knew that he had a drinking problem. He knew that he was
went
going
to
to be.
rehab.
He knew he was going to be in this tournament, but he still went to Tony Khan. He's like, "Hey, I can't do this. I need to, go." And
Yeah,
they put Miro in. They changed the plans to let Brian win it, if I remember correctly. But
Yes.
he recognized instantly. He's like, "Hey, man, I got an issue."
Yeah. And props to Tony kind of being like, hey, yes, we're going to do something about this.
And I hope like that comes down to a point where, Moxley can get into Jeff Hardy's head and be like, bro, you need to stop. Like nobody's going to hire you. You won't be able to wrestle if you keep, doing this. Like nobody's going to book you if they know you're a drunken mess coming in. Like So
God knows what else he's on.
So I think Moxley is going to kind of be like that heart in the backstage in the coming years, especially when the older guys either leave or retire, and then like, newer indie darlings are starting to be, hired and everything. I think having somebody like him backstage is going to be very beneficial, especially alongside William Regal and Dustin Rhodes. Like, that just seems like a power backstage.
And on top of that, with Moxley, that takes a lot of courage to recognize when you have a problem and it needs to be addressed. And to actually go and actively seek help for that also takes a lot of courage, because a lot of people don't ever reach that point. As a matter of fact, some people, when they go through those things, or they go through some kind of addiction or depression or whatnot, they don't even make it that far.
No.
Right.
So I'm glad that Moxley went and got himself, he got himself together. He got in his right headspace once again, and he's just able to, mentor the younger talent back there. And I don't know, man. I just wish him all the best.
Yeah,
He's having the one. He came back, and in those months since he's come back, he's probably had the best one of his whole career.
Dude, this whole year has been like the best year of his fucking career. He's just like put on banger after banger after banger of a match. Not only in AEW, everywhere.
But in GCW as well, and everywhere he wrestles. Okay, Jon Moxley loves this shit, and you can tell each and every time he's out there.
It frustrates me to think about it, because like, we could have had this so much sooner, but you stuck him with a Bane gimmick against Seth Rollins instead of just letting them give like just wrestling art just as themselves, like it. And like the interview he did with Jericho where he's talking about it, he's like, man, I spent most of my time before my matches trying to get like scripts changed, trying to just not have to do these stupid fucking ideas. And he's like, then when he turned on Seth and Roman, his leukemia showed back up, and Vince was like, here, go out here and say this. And it's like Blind's like talking shit about Roman, like while he has cancer. And he's just like, he's like, I don't want to say this. Like, I'm not going to, go out here and say this, because like Moxley John Good, John Moxley, he comes from a bad, upbringing. Like, I think he had like a single mother and all this other stuff. And he's like, Roman's family gave me the first like complete like Christmas dinner that I've ever had with a family. And I'm not going to go out there and insult him about, his cancer. So it's like, he's like, no, they're not going to pay me enough to come back. Like, it was one of the things, like, I can't do this as long as, this is the environment.
And the more you think about these things, the more I realize that I am so happy Triple H is in charge of this company now. Because honestly, I don't know, another year or two.
We'll get to WWE in a second, because they've had some banger stuff happening this last few weeks. But yeah, like, I hope for the future with Moxley in the back, we start to see a big morale improvement.
I think the case of AEW has two dads. They have the unapproachable one who's just lays down the law on Bryan Danielson, and then they have the cool one that they go to when Daddy Danielson gets them in trouble. They go to Moxley like, Dad.
Yeah. And without their big stars, we've seen that undercard carry the weight the last few weeks, and nothing proved that better than Pac and OC's match last
we hadn't
night.
even talked about that yet.
And it just proves like, hey, these guys have been with the company. They've been loyal. They haven't caused trouble. They've just gone out there, put on banger after banger with each other. The chemistry between Pac and Orange Cassidy is fucking insane. And just Orange Cassidy winning that All Atlantic title last night, like, it just shows like, hey, I believed in this guy. That's why I brought him in. The fans loved him. It's time to, do this. Because also, Pac's trios champions right now, so they don't want to have multiple belts stacked on people.
Right.
You're the first double champion in.
He was the first double champion. So another reward.
Just AEW stuff.
Yeah, just AEW. So it's just another reward for just being, the guy with the company.
Yes.
Like, Pac hasn't caused issues. The only thing that's affected him is the pandemic and being able to travel.
Right.
But he hasn't wanted to leave. He's gone out there. He's wrestled the matches. He's wrestled the people he's had to wrestle. Like, a lot of people will be like, why am I wrestling this fucking Joker? Like,
why am I fighting Serpentico
yeah,
again?
it's like, why am I going against fucking Serpentico? I can be doing better stuff. Now, Pac's like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do what I'm told to do.
And I'm going to have a banger match while doing it.
And fucking Pac selling last night.
Oh my god, that DDT on the
both of those DDTs last night, the way he sold those,
Pac
he
looks
is really
like,
good at selling off.
Somebody describes like Pac looks like he just got smacked in the head with a shovel. Like that's how his body was like reacting to that. He's so good.
The one outside the ring, he like practically ragdolled when he impacted.
But that's another thing is that people. I was reading all the Twitter stuff earlier because Twitter is just a cesspool of wrestling.
Twitter's a fucking dumpster
people
fire.
Are like, oh, they put the belt on the mascot. They've already ruined, this belt and everything. And I'm like, first of all, Orange Cassidy can actually wrestle. We've seen that. These matches against Pac have shown us that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
the
like
first one did.
The first one is like, hey, people are like, Orange Cassidy's a fucking joke. No, he can wrestle. Mm-hmm. The whole match, everybody was selling. Nobody was looking like they were suddenly better. Like, even after hitting, the first Orange Punch, like, Orange Cassidy was going for his own neck because he had been pile drived onto the ramp. Like, he knows in-ring psychology. It's like, I don't understand why people can hate on this guy because of his gimmick. Like, he actually knows how to act in the ring.
Because Orange Cassidy is a prime example of a fantastic character actually masking someone's actual ability. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody focus on Orange Cassidy, the character. Okay. Because, they see him and he's just like this aloof, slacker comedy gimmick. But the truth is the dude actually can wrestle. And let me let you in on something here. Back during the Jakar days, he was Fire Ant. And he was pretty good back then too. So
wait, no shit.
Yeah, he's actually Fire Ant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You can go look that stuff up right now. I'm not kidding. But
I believe you.
The point being is that Orange Cassidy is a phenomenal wrestler. He understands everything that goes on in the ring. It's just people think he doesn't because, he's come up with this fantastic comedy gimmick and it got over extremely quick. And that's all they see him as. But
he literally does not care. Like, that's the gimmick. And like, but the thing is, he's smart in that character too, because like the count out, he rolls down the ring because it's faster than walking. Or he rolls down the ramp because it's faster than walking. Like, the storytelling and like the awareness of that kind of stuff, like, you don't get that by being just like shitty in the ring. Like, that's something you're always paying attention to. You're like, how can I be creative about this? And it's not a bunch of high flying moves. It's not a bunch of, rehearsed like stuff. It's like Orange Cassidy and Pac feels like an actual like fight. Because they're not like setting each other up for stuff. It's like the distraction with the ref was what allowed OC to do the suicide dive, and all this other stuff. So it's like they know how to tell a story and make it seem like it's an actual wrestling match rather than a dance. Mm-hmm. And I am really happy he has the title because now I want to see where it goes with it. Like, I want to see the feuds that come out of this.
Yeah. There's a lot you can do with the All Atlantic, especially if the gimmick of the belt is to be like what the Intercontinental belt used to be.
Yeah.
Is you can easily like get like out of countrymen like what's his name? The really good one from London. That's not signed to anybody right now.
Zack Sabre.
You can get like Zack Sabre Jr. You can get when Kenny Omega comes back.
That was something that somebody brought up last night. It's like, okay, you had Bryanson lose against the Ring of Honor title match. So what are we going to do with him now? And it's like, okay, he's clear to wrestle. Let's run back this Zack Sabre Jr. feud that they had started. Like, that's what you can do with Bryanson now. Or Danielson, whichever one.
Are you calling him Bryanson?
Yeah, it's like, he has two names and they're just reversed, and I keep forgetting which is
Danielson.
which.
Bryan Danielson, the one he's had for 30 years.
Yeah, so it's just like...
And then Daniel Bryan, the one we knew, WWE fans
for a
knew
short
him
amount of
as.
time, yeah.
But, like, he is kind of like... After this now, he is kind of like, okay, where do we go with, him? Where do we go with Garcia? Like, because I think one of you guys brought it up last night in the Discord. It seems like there's going to be these turns on people, like with Hayter and Garcia, and then it turns out to be a fake out. And the thing is, like, you can only do that so many times before, people start to get
tired of it.
Because I mean, it started with Luchasaurus, because Luchasaurus turned. He was with Christian, then he turned on Christian. It's like, oh, he turned on Jungle Boy because it was a fake out, and I'm like, I guess because maybe Christian got injured, so I guess they're kind of just trying to piece it together now.
Sure.
I mean, Hater, I can see the Hater turn is going to happen, but it's
it's still going to happen.
You don't need to do this, back and forth stuff. It's like
it just seems like
that's what got me with Danielson. It's like, or that's what got me with Garcia. It's like, bro, you could have just easily hit Jericho right there and set up a great feud.
Yeah, and they just keep walking the story back. I'm like, it's like Tony Khan goes that direction. It's like, let's just walk it back for now. Jamie Hayter will walk that back for now too. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, there are moments where Tony Khan is like, right now is the time, pulling the trigger, doing it, and it works wonderfully. But then there were those moments where you're like, not yet. And it's like, that not yet then undoes, a few weeks of storytelling. And it's like, all right, we have to rebuild, and I'm just like, man, you just got to commit to it, at some point. If it feels like it's, I know what the plan is. If it feels like it's the right time, though, like if the crowd is really into it on that moment, you got to pull the trigger. Like,
I think what you could have done, like, yes, hit Bryan Danielson with the title, because you'll notice what he did is he waited for Bryan Danielson to hit the Psycho knee first, and then hit him with it.
Yeah,
that's fine.
So there was hesitation.
Yes,
like that's the thing. It's like, so is Garcia still hesitating on Jericho being like his guy? Because at the end of it, he was pretty close and like cheering with him, and that's what gets me. It's like if he had just hit Danielson and then left, I feel like that would have probably been a better story rather than celebrating with Jericho. But it's like, it's just one of those things that's like, there are times it's like you need to, it's like the small detail, it's like, okay, he let Jericho get hit with the finisher and then he saved him.
Yes, that was
but then he cheered with him.
Then he cheered.
Then I'm like, it was. So did you want him to get hit with it? Like,
or maybe I'm thinking with this storyline that maybe Daniel Garcia
is
laid
playing
out
Jericho.
Danielson. Maybe he's just playing Jericho.
I can see him playing Jericho,
and so he can be the one to take him out himself and challenge Jericho eventually for the Ring of Honor World Title and win it, so he can, like his hero Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, hold both titles, Ring of Honor and Pure title.
Yeah, I mean that's a good story because like it makes everything make sense in the end. Like that's all I want. At the end of it, does it make sense? And that's why I'm like, last night didn't really make a lot of sense because it felt like he was happy that Jericho got hit, but then he helped Jericho and then he celebrated with Jericho. So it's like one of these things doesn't feel like it fits here, I
have unrelated to that, I have beef with so we saw FTR again. Cool. Very cool.
The Pinnacle's back.
The Pinnacle
with
minus
Samoa
MJF.
Joe.
Samoa Joe now playing the role of MJF.
Somebody posted a shot from NXT. It was Joe coming out with the title, and he had like the Goldberg like security team with him. And one of those guys is MJF, like prior to him signing before AEW was even made. And I'm like, it's like MJF and Sean Spears, and I'm like, did Samoa Joe just like steal MJF's crew? Like, is that what just happened here? But like,
about it that way.
But that's like, because Pinnacle's not a thing anymore, and now you have MJF kind of just existing. But then you had the Firm, who he's now angry with. So it's like, are those guys just not going to be a factor like going forward? Because they also helped end Moxley's run. It's like this really weird. This is really weird.
There's also the embassy that's running around.
Yeah, the embassy is running around, taking on the like War Joe. I'm just gonna call them the Pinnacle now. Just it's like, so what's the point of the Firm if you're not going to instantly capitalize on MJF and Moxley, but you want to do Moxley Hangman? Like,
I do like the interview MJF had where he's like, "Hey, I didn't ask you to do that. Now you're in my promo. That's strike 2. Third one, I'm kicking you out.
I
and
love
then
that.
He's like, ha!
I love that promo too. It's like, oh, I know. It's the usual backstage thing. Here I am doing an interview, and then you interrupt. Ooh, like I love this. Like mid, like is he face or is he heel? Like MJF.
Yeah.
Like I really he's so
he's just
good.
taking the piss out of everything, and it's fun.
He's so good on the microphone.
Yeah.
It's insane. But like the CM Punk thing did feel like it was a step back. So going forward, I really hope this feud becomes a triple threat.
I think what he'll do is it won't be a triple threat yet. What's going to happen is they'll have the match. They'll get there's some high spot, and they're both down. Here comes MJF just to make it. Then he makes it a triple threat.
Yeah, I can also see it playing off like they do the triple threat. He pins Paige because then you can set up a feud where Moxie's like, "You never beat me," and then like that could be the next like big feud between them, and then you can get the Firm involved again. Where it's like, hey, you remember these guys? So, like, I can see that
kind of be like that'd be like hard resetting that feud between Moxley and MJF at that point.
because they've started because they've given us that promo too. Like they had both of them a few weeks ago, like doing a promo. So it's like, what are we doing here? Like, is it a triple threat? Like, is that the end goal here?
Storylines, but they're not connecting. I'm just
not connecting yet.
not connecting yet.
I think that's the other thing about having like a pay-per-view every 3 months.
Yeah, you can have all these stories build.
Yes, they're still building. So we're so used to like the story ending in the month and then the story ending next month, and that we don't really have. We're not used to having to wait 3 months for the story to like conclude.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. I think we're just conditioned to bite-sized storylines.
Yes.
And the idea of long-term storytelling is done really well in AEW, but it's the build that we're like, why is this happening? Because we're not used to thinking like that. We're not used to anticipation.
Well, but we used to stuff being over every 2 weeks because of WWE.
I mean,
We used to build stories.
Segueing into WWE, like, hey, they just had the pay-per-view this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have one in like 4 weeks. So it's like...
I like when it's consistently 4 weeks. When every time it's 3 weeks, it feels off. Every time it's 5 weeks, it's fine.
Because I think,
but every time it's 4 weeks is a sweet spot.
They're popping off like 3 pay-per-views in 6 weeks, and that gets to be a little bit much sometimes.
Yeah, because they're doing like the build to Crown Jewel now, and then like November 26th, I think, is Survivor Series. So it's like a month away, and I'm like,
that's too much. It's a bit much.
And it's like you're bringing back all these like released people too. So it's like, where are they going to fit into all this? Like, it's just one of those. Also, Twitter, just fucking shut up, because I don't see anybody complaining about WWE hiring all these ex-WWE guys. So, but
like Bray Wyatt.
That's the big thing. Bray Wyatt came back, and he came back with a faction from the looks of it. But nobody knows who these faction members are, if they are a faction. There's suspicions, because Eric Redbeard has talked about re-signing. He's probably like the best fit to go back to Bray. Bo Dallas has been reported to be coming back. I mean, his brother, he is definitely probably going to be involved if it is a faction.
Yep.
Though Seth Rollins and Liv Morgan have completely blacked out their like Twitters.
I can see Liv going into that faction. Not so much Seth.
It's just so weird because like Seth blacked out all his, but he won the U.S. title.
I don't know.
On Monday, like to set up the Lashley Lesnar feud,
which is going to happen at Crown Jewel,
which is going to happen in like one pay-per-view, and then Brock's probably going to fuck off again. So like, why even the point? Well, I know the point. The report said they wanted to make Bobby Lashley look like a strong opponent for having him hold the U.S. title for that long, which I can make sense. They did a good job. They reinvigorated that title.
That's what the reports wanted in the first place, and mission accomplished.
You're bringing Brock back, and the cynical side of me is like, all that's going to be destroyed because Lashley's probably going to lose. Like, so why even worry about how strong Lashley looks? We all know that Brock is strong. He went fucking for 9 sequels against Roman. Like, it's been the only person who's been back and forth with, and you're portraying Roman being this like dominant force, so we know Brock's strong. So what fucking hope does Lashley have? Like,
And there's still the outside chance he can win.
I think that if Lashley does win, it's the Hurt Business coming back together. I think because they haven't put Omos on TV a lot.
Omos was on
Oh,
TV
okay, he has, but he's been on
Monday.
a lot. He's been on a lot less than he's been on.
They haven't featured him
memory.
as much in the last couple months, and that's probably because.
Yeah, he whooped on some jobbers on Monday.
I'm happy Raw's doing that. I'm happy they're actually bringing back like jobbers rather than just like feeding like
so
Ali or Ricochet to somebody. Like, see, that's the thing. For the longest time, it was like, hey, who's one of our lower card guys? Mustafa Ali. All right, bring him out here. We're going to feed him to this guy. And it's like, you know, Ali's posting that he's getting fucking sick of, you know, how he's being treated. But that's nothing new.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bray Wyatt's back. I think I read that he's going to be exclusive to SmackDown. So
I'm into it.
It's going to be their Friday night, you know, thing against Rampage now, where it's like, okay, you know, Rampage is going to probably lose in the ratings because Bray Wyatt's going to be on TV, and everybody loves that. But I'm just like, what are you going to do if you're going to bring him back? Are you going to instantly establish him as this powerhouse? And if you do, are you going to make the same mistake where he's going to lose the first pay-per-view he shows up at?
That's why I would not put him in with the Bloodline just yet.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like, hey, look, I like Karrion Kross. I like Killer Kross. I like the character.
Yeah.
He does not impact me at all in WWE because he either has to cheat to win, and he feels a lot weaker despite what he looks like because he can't just beat a man one-on-one. And I feel like they've done the same thing they did with him originally, having him win that match against Drew McIntyre by pepper spray, where it's like, okay, you make him look like a fucking nerd. Like, why even throw him into this feud if you were going to have him lose? Why can't you just throw him in a feud with somebody else before McIntyre? You know?
I genuinely missed the where he just, like, as soon as he put the straight jacket on, it's over.
Yeah, it's just like they did the same thing twice with Cross. They brought him in and made him look like a nerd. Like, it's just, I don't understand it. And that's the thing that worries me. It's like, this is with Trips at the helm. And it's just like, I'm afraid for
Those habits die hard sometimes.
I tweeted it right after the reveal, and I was like, I'm going to give them one feud before they fuck up Bray Wyatt again. Like, he needs to show up. It just needs to be a month, like a thing for months where he's just running through people.
Yeah, I think Triple H is getting ready to learn that what Tony Khan has kind of learned as of late. You can bring back all the people you want.
Now, WWE has a bloated roster. Why is nobody complaining about it? Like,
they will soon. Oh, trust me, that's coming because you can do all these things, bring all these people back, but once the debuts and all that stuff runs out, you gotta start putting together compelling matches, good storytelling, things of that nature, good television. You're gonna have to start utilizing these guys, and when you have a bloated roster, that's kind of hard to do. And people are gonna start bitching eventually when, you know, Bray Wyatt isn't being shot to the top of the card against Roman almost immediately. That's coming.
So
I would like, if you're gonna make him like this Undertaker type entity who just kind of like chills out with his rocking chair, like watching from, you know, the stands or from the ramp or whatever, fine. Don't make it. Don't immediately put him in the title picture.
Yeah. So I will give it to this. WWE has multiple shows. They have 2 shows where they can put people on. They have 7 hours of TV time,
Something like that.
Something like that.
Between all of their people, men, women, NXT, SmackDown, Raw, they have a roster size of 237.
Okay, Google.
237.
237. AEW as of right now is 180. So, yes, they have an additional show in NXT. Most of these, probably about 40 of that roster is NXT. Mm-hmm. So we'll say that they have about equal roster size. But sure, they have an extra 5 hours of television. And it's like, you still have people who don't show up on TV for weeks. So it's like, I don't understand how roster size can be an argument for some people. You know, it's at least with AEW, people are still showing up wrestling on YouTube. Like they're still there getting paid.
At least you got main event.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, for a few weeks, Judgment Day was on main event, and nobody is like, oh, they buried him. It's like, so I don't understand how this argument can apply for one company and not the other. And that's what infuriates me the most about fucking the Twitter wrestling fans, because it's like, use your fucking brains, guys.
No, they just gotta paint false narratives when it comes to tribalism and the brand they root for. They gotta paint those narratives to make it make sense. Otherwise, it won't.
Critical thinking machine go burr.
And I mean, some of these guys on AEW's roster are like, they're fucking crazy match totals. Like Alex Reynolds has 107 matches in AEW, just like all combined. You got Adam Cole, who's sitting at like 33 because of, you know, his recent addition and an injury. But who was somebody that came in about the same time as him? It was
Hold on. While you're looking that up, I'm gonna have my rant. Bryan Danielson literally the same day as Adam Cole.
10 more matches.
Yeah,
but like, you still see Bryan all the time. Like, you can still see people on TV if they're not wrestling. That's why factions are a good thing. You know?
Good point.
I mean, Cash Wheeler, FTR, like fucking 61 matches since they've shown up. It's wild.
So something I was like kind of upset about was the report from Wrestling Observer about Adam Cole, where it's like he's like, it's a concussion. He could be cleared tomorrow, or he could never be cleared. Like, yes, that's fucking asshole.
Yes,
that's how that works.
Those are the extremes.
Those are the two extremes. Yes,
it's just,
I hate dirt sheets. This is my hate dirt sheets right now.
Dave just needs to stop. Like, Dave needs to grade matches. He does not need to speculate on backstage bullshit. Wrestling dirt sheets don't need to speculate on backstage bullshit. It's just like, oh God, it's just like, you can be the Dave Meltzer who just feels like he's an innocent idiot on that end of the spectrum. But you can also be the Jim Cornette. And the only answer is, you don't be anywhere between them, and you don't be them. Just don't speculate. Just reveal.
Stay out of that lane.
And it's like everything with like Malachi Black. The guy is like dealing with like loss and like mental health, and he still had to get on Instagram and be like, if it's not coming from me, don't believe it. I'll be back in AEW. And they're like, oh, he was paid to say that. And I'm like, no, because this guy's a professional. He says this is his job. He's going back to the company paying him. Like, yes. He's not just leaving. Like, Andrade, it just seems like he's an asshole about it. Like, I can understand. It's like, oh, Triple H is going to treat me well because I was in NXT with him. And it's like, Andrade, in all honesty, you're probably going to be welcomed back and then fed to the bloodline. Like,
yeah, probably.
But that's another thing that's getting me. Like, I like the long-term storytelling there with Jay and everything going on with Jay, because it just seems like the whole family's turning against him, and everybody was like, oh, Sami Zayn's going to destroy, you know, the bloodline. I think it's going to be Jay that finally does it.
I love that segment on Friday where Sami Zayn's just like, look at Jimmy. Everyone loves Jimmy. Look at that smile.
And then the crowd just starts wildly cheering for him.
Yeah. And he's like, and Solo's cool. He's just been mean mugging the whole time.
I think Solo has one mode, and that's mean mug. That's all I've seen him do on TV.
There was what was it on Monday, the backstage segment where they're laughing with Sammy, and it's like, this is the first time I think I've seen Solo smile.
Yeah.
But it's like, the problem that I have with the bloodline is that Roman really only wrestles on pay-per-views. And I'm like, it's so boring seeing that the titles are just being held like this, you know, like both of them, and on a guy who you see wrestle once every 6 weeks. Like, it's infuriating to think about it, because at the same time, people are complaining. It's like, the thing with belts is like, okay, WWE has 2 belts for the World Championship. They have 2 sets of tag team belts. They have the different TV titles, the Intercontinental and the US.
Yeah.
They're talking about bringing back the European belt for NXT because they're doing NXT Europe. They have the North American title, which in my honest opinion is the same thing as the US title. I don't even know why they try to fucking change
it's
that.
NXT's United States title.
It's just one of those things. It's like, it infuriates me because I'm like, that's just the US and the Intercontinental combined for a portion of the world. Like,
yes.
And then you have, you know, the NXT championships and all that, and it's like AEW has too many belts, and I'm like, first of all, it's 2 companies. It's AEW and it's Ring of Honor. And those are very specifically, you know, designated. But at the same time, people were also bitching that Shida showed up with the Japanese company belts that she had last night. They're like, wow, they're just giving out belts to everybody, huh? And I'm like, bro, there's more than just 2 promotions in this world. Wrestlers wrestle for them, and they are champions in them. That's why FTR shows up with 3 sets of belts.
And New Japan Pro Wrestling does the exact same shit. They have multiple belts in their company as well. As a matter of fact, they just created a new
new one.
Yeah, the television championship.
They created the New Japan Television Championship. It looks like a fucking like championship ring as a belt. It's a wild design, but everybody's like,
I was thinking it looked like a fancy TV dinner tray, but you know, that's just me.
But you know, but everybody's like, this is the same belt that the Never Championship was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, so what's the purpose of the Never Championship now?
So I don't know. Why don't you ask Carl Anderson? Yeah. Oh, I forgot.
See, and that's another thing. Either Trips is going to start letting people do other promotions, which he's not going to do, so I don't know why I'm saying that. So we know that Anderson's dropping the title at that event. Mm-hmm. But they didn't even let him like walk on with it. So it's like, yeah, you're not going to be wrestling for New Japan. If you're going to be back here, you're not going to have that. We're not going to have that title appear on our TV at all.
They do a good job every now and again of referencing other promotions when it suits them.
They did it with Antonio Inoki.
Yes.
We just lost him, you know, the founder of New Japan Pro Wrestling, a legend in the industry. And they did a whole, you know, remembering thing for him. But then you have a guy who has one of Inoki's company belts, and they don't let him bring it onto TV.
I wonder if that I wonder if that's not necessarily like it's not like it's that maybe it's a personal choice. Maybe he doesn't want to.
Yeah. I mean, we know he's probably dropping it. So it's like, if you're
that's also true.
If you're going to bet on that match, probably really good to bet on Hikuleo. So
yeah, if you're on DraftKings right now, just throw everything on Hikuleo.
Yeah. Just put on the money line on Hikuleo right now.
He holds the belts, and if he does come back to WWE, and this is the start of them slowly opening the doors to other promotions, I'll eat my fucking words. I doubt it's happening.
I would be pleasantly surprised.
I would love a unified wrestling universe. You know, I would love everybody's history to coexist with each other. Because for years, Vince was like, it's our history. He bought out promotions. He erased history. You know, like he didn't recognize certain title runs because it was people outside of his company.
Right.
And it's just like, everything's better when everybody's working together, guys.
I think that's true. I think one thing you will learn very quickly if you unify every promotion is that everyone has a belt. I think that's what you're going to learn very quickly, is that everyone has a belt.
Why is the wrestling industry giving everybody a belt? It's like, okay, first of all, dumbass. There's four major there's 4 major promotions. We're going to say 4. We're going to say WWE, AEW, Impact, and New Japan. We're going to say like those are
but okay.
The fact that Impact isn't dead proves that they are allowed to stay here.
Like, Impact are the cockroaches of the wrestling world.
To be fair, they've lasted longer than WCW. WCW was around for like what, maybe officially 11, 12 years. They're in the 20th year.
WCCW to WCW.
I think they became WCW in 88, but I might be wrong.
89, 88, one of them two.
But yes, the fact that TNA has earned its spot just by sheer fucking force of spite. Like, it's like,
hey,
okay,
I respect it.
I will count that as one of the big three in the US. But it's like, yeah, but everybody has a title, yes. It makes it better when you have a bunch of champions that can go into like an elimination chamber against each other. You know? Like, give me an elimination chamber where we see like Okada and Reigns and Moxley and like 3 other promotions champions just thrown into a fucking match together.
Josh Alexander.
Give me
from Impact.
It's like, give me the WWE, the AEW, the New Japan Pro Wrestling like War Games match. Like, give me that shit, you know? Like, that's the kind of shit that I want to. I would. That's fan booking. Like, that's fan wanting stuff.
We're getting closer and closer to being able to live our Fire Pro Wrestling dreams.
Yes. I want all of my action figures to be available to me. And I want them all to wrestle with each other.
Still don't know how to play Fire Pro Wrestling, by the way. I've tried.
It's needlessly complicated. It plays like one of those. It plays like an '80s WWF game, and that's not a compliment.
No, not in the least bit.
Yeah, but yeah, X. So the last few weeks of WWE, how have you felt about them? Like, being somebody who has watched for years, we're out of this era of Vince McMahon. You know, we're 6 weeks removed, I think.
Yeah, about a month and a half removed.
So, in those last few weeks, like, what have you thought about it? Have you found yourself like just enjoying it more? Have you found yourself like not thinking about like why are they doing this now? Like,
there's always going to be points where, you know, I sit back and watch WWE and I was like, okay, what are they doing here? What are they doing there? But overall, I think in the last 6 weeks, WWE has flowed a lot better.
Yeah.
Okay. Storyline wise, it's flowed a lot better. Yeah, they're still trying to work out some of the crap that Vince, you know, worked in.
I mean, they put the belt back on Rousey.
Yeah. And
I was like, they let Liv hold it for 3 months.
Yeah. I didn't see
being that popular.
But to be truthfully honest, I didn't see Liv holding it, you know, longer than the summer.
And the thing is, like, this is obviously Rousey, Charlotte Flair. Like, what's going to be? Yeah. Like, Charlotte's probably coming back.
Oh yeah, we're all just bracing for that return, like, you know. And,
it's going to be a shit show of a match.
And it was a shit show of a match with Liv. Like, Rousey can't wrestle.
But overall, I really like some of the stuff Triple H has been doing. Okay, he's bringing back talent. He's adding depth to the roster. Okay, so, you know, we're not having rematches every single week like we did under Vince, which got tiring. Okay, and, you know, the pay-per-views are a lot better. Matter of fact, Clash of the Castle to me was the best pay-per-view of WWE this year. Okay, that was their best pay-per-view by far. Okay, Sheamus and Gunther, the Brawling Brutes and Imperium. Oh man, they've just been beating each other daft for the last several weeks. I really enjoyed their storyline.
That's a point. Ever since Trips took over, like, Sheamus looks like a completely new fucking guy. Like,
yeah, it seems like he's been revitalized.
It's like the energy he brings back. Like, Sheamus is having the best run right now of his fucking career.
He has, and you know, I largely credit that to Ridge Holland and, you know, Pete Dunne, Butch, if you want to call him that.
I'm not crediting shit to Ridge Holland because he's still very sloppy.
He's the weakest. He's the third of a good
Understandable.
Team.
The Big E. Yeah, I understand because of the whole shit with Big E. I'm still a little pissed about that.
I am forgiving him for that.
But I will give cover credit. But you know what though? Butch has been the spotlight of this group to me because he's just going out there and just acting like a wild fucking madman.
He's one of Triple H's.
He wants to fight everybody. He wants to smoke. Okay, he wants to fight every damn body within, you know, eye shot of him. Okay, and he's probably been the energy behind this whole group and why it works.
He's one of Triple H's kids. So
yeah. So Sheamus is like the original Triple H's kid.
Yeah, I mean, they put all their baskets in him. I mean, he kind of had like a lackluster run the last few years, but it's that chemistry. It's like OC and Pac. And Sheamus saw Gunther, and he was like, I'm gonna put on a fucking banger with this guy.
I'm gonna beat the mess out this dude, and he's gonna beat the mess out of me in return.
And it's
gonna be glorious
from day one, where their teams are brawling and they're just staring each other down. You're like, this is gonna be a great fucking feud.
That was awesome.
Like,
but I'm glad they brought Imperium up to the main roster because I don't know, Vince McMahon did some weird shit where he just only brought 2 of them up, and I'm like, and they tried to do this thing with Giovanni Vinci, which is kind of like what they're doing with Austin Theory right now. I'm just glad they put them back together. You know, Imperium was meant to be that 3-man group.
Why ruin
regardless of name changes, but
why ruin
they were
a good
meant
thing?
to be that group.
Why ruin a good thing?
Why ruin it? Why change the flavor of the sauce? We got all the ingredients right there. Okay, so there's that. Bailey and Damage Control have been really good. Kind of fell flat a little bit as of late because, maybe they took a step back having Raquel and Aaliyah win the tag titles first, and then, they put them on them. I don't know, man. I think that in this era, still, I think that's one of the biggest problems. They're still not doing anything with the tag team titles on the women's side of things.
Yeah, because that's because it's like setting up like Bailey and Candice for now, right? For the next like feud. And it's like, okay, what's going on with the tag titles?
Yeah, and it's like, I know that, and I guess they're still trying to work Bailey back to Bianca Belair again, but I don't know, man. It's just like some parts of the women's division still feel kind of flat. Like it needs something. Okay, I guess it just feels like they're just on cruise control until Charlotte Flair gets back.
Yeah,
to me, that's what it seems like. And then not having Sasha and Naomi there, that's kind of creating a problem in itself too, because you just don't have that. You just don't have those two, in their star power, and that's probably the reason why they tried out Liv Morgan. They gave her the SmackDown Women's title. They made her a champion. It worked for a while, but I guess it kind of fell flat. But yeah, overall, but you know what? I thought Liv was all right as a champ. Okay, but I knew she wasn't going to hold the title past the summer because WWE tends to not run with that very long. It's more like an experimental thing, and maybe they'll work her way back to it one day, but not right now.
Yeah, we can hope. It's like she had like all the fans loved her. They put the title on her, but then it was like the first match afterwards. It's like it had a botched finish or something, and it's like, why are you writing in like a storyline botch for the first match of your new champion? It's like, why are you automatically damaging them?
And I think that's what did it in right there, because that they kind of botched that finish with Liv and Ronda with the armbar. That kind of screwed Liv's momentum. It did. Yeah. And ever since then, it's kind of taking a step backwards each and every time.
Yeah.
They should have gave her somebody else before Ronda.
That match between them was awful to watch. Like, it was just like
kind of hard to watch. Yeah.
I'm like, God, Rousey can't wrestle, and they're just continuing to like do this stuff. Like Liv can wrestle, but she can't walk somebody into a great match. When Rousey first came up, and it was her and Kurt Angle versus Trips and Stephanie.
Yeah.
And like Trips was obviously like going to be able to like help her look good. Liv doesn't have that experience. I mean, she's in her mid-20s. Like, she hasn't had that long of like a wrestling career. And it's like, it was like one thing after another. It was like the chair getting moved out of, like getting kicked out of the corner by accident. It was like all these botches.
And it's not to say that she's bad in the ring, because she's not. She's actually really good. She's improved a lot over the last 2 or 3 years or so. But like I said, it's just that she just can't carry the match the way we want her to right at the moment.
She can't.
You give her a few more years and she will.
She can't Bret Hart a drunk British bulldog through the best match in SummerSlam history to have him win the title.
That dude really did wrestle drunk, didn't he?
He did, and Bret Hart carried that fucking match, and he made British Bulldog look great.
Because Bret Hart is a fucking legend and a pro, and that's why he did that.
Yeah.
But overall, I kind of like the direction. They brought Braun back.
Different about Braun now. I think he's doing a great job. I'm indifferent about the person behind Braun Strowman. Because kind of showed his whole ass.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's doing fine.
He's doing all right. I don't. But see, the thing is, I don't exactly know how they're gonna fix this title picture, or how they're gonna get these. I don't know how they're gonna break these championships up. They don't want Roman to lose because I guess they're trying to. I guess it feels like
they're trying their hardest to get The Rock and Roman as a match.
They're trying to get to that point, and they're trying a little too hard to.
It's like they're trying. They want him, if they can get that match, they want Roman to go into that match with both titles. And I'm like, that's just damaging the rest of your roster because everybody's going to look fucking weak. Like nobody's going to be able to dethrone this guy. And
it's getting to the point where they're getting to that point because he's been champion since Payback of 2020, which was the week after SummerSlam. So now you're going on 2.5, 3 years as this guy's champion. And now you're starting to run out of you're starting to run out of opponents for him. And it's like, oh, well, nobody's going to believe anybody can beat Roman right now. Now you're putting him in with Logan Paul. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Logan Paul is just being fed to the wolves for this one. Like,
basically.
I'm okay with it because
he's a celebrity.
I'm not. Yes.
So I don't expect him to win.
And they did hint at that stuff in the interview where it's like, if you want to be in Logan Paul's spot, don't let a celebrity be better than you. That was the thing, but I'm like Braun said he's not done with Roman, so we're probably gonna get Braun and Roman down the line, and Braun's probably gonna lose. And we might get Lashley versus Roman down the line. Like they're probably just gonna start throwing like bigger guys at him. And I'm like, eventually we might get, Dexter Lumis against Roman, but he'll probably lose too. So it's like,
so
who does dethrone him at the end of all this?
Yeah, that my question to you guys, well, Deca, okay, who do you think right now that's left would be a credible challenger for Roman Reigns in your eyes?
Jey Uso.
I think it's like, I think that's the story they're building to, but it's like, really, like,
I'd be okay with it, like main event Jey Uso.
That's probably like the fans like thought of it's like really just like one half of a tag team guy is gonna be the one to dethrone Roman if it happens. It's like that said, it's like I could see Solo probably being the guy down the line.
That was my next thought process.
I think because unless they completely have changed his backstory, Solo is like family was never there, so why the hell is Solo helping out? Roman. And I can see post world titles, Roman and the Usos against Owen, Zayn, and Solo as like a feud.
I can see Solo just outright. I can see Solo just outright booting Roman from the bloodline and taking over. And then just be Rikishi's sons as the bloodline.
Yeah.
Which would lead to an unintentional face turn for Roman, probably. But
I mean,
be like that.
My big call right now is down the line. It's going to be Bray and whatever faction he has, if he has one. Like
against the bloodline.
Eventually, he's going to probably get a title off of Roman. Start showing like the cracks in the armor, and then somebody else will get the other title. From the reports, there was never a plan for Cody Rhodes to win the world championship,
which is a damn shame, really, because he was like the hottest thing.
Is crazy in that idea, but at the same time, like he will come back eventually, and they'll have to do a storyline with him at some point to keep him
world title,
keep him relevant. And I could see Cody definitely being worthy of a world title run. So
I wonder. We don't know when he's coming back is the thing.
Yeah, we don't know.
There's still a lot of like question marks about that.
My guess is Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
I think Royal Rumble would be good.
Cody Rhodes could be back anytime between tomorrow or never.
Yeah. Tomorrow could be cleared tomorrow, could be cleared never.
God, I'm still gonna call those Dave measurements.
Yeah. The two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, just
Melter moments.
Just certified Melter moment.
Certified Melter moment.
Yep.
Why the hell do people still listen to this guy? Seriously,
I don't know.
Because he has people in the industry who still he's the Thorin of the wrestling.
No, that's Cornette is the Thorin. I'm not going to.
No.
I'm not going to say
Cornette
Dave's
is the Alex Jones.
Oh God, you're right. Yeah,
we went over this already.
That makes sense.
You're right. He's the Alex Jones of wrestling, and I fucking hate that. But all right.
Well, at least he's not. At least he's not out damn near $1 billion.
The last thing,
given time though.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing is like they're not doing anything with these women's tag titles. They don't really have a lot of teams to throw into a tag picture that aren't like just pushed together. I mean,
Sasha. If you think about it, Sasha Banks and Naomi was pushed together. So
I think Raquel Rodriguez mentioned that she wants like a women's intercontinental title.
That's what they should have did instead
And I
of the
could
tag
see
titles.
that being like the women's like TV title, getting rid of like the tag titles and like putting a single like here's our TV title kind of idea. And I'm like, okay, cool. You can bring back crazy, Nikki Cross. You could turn Doudrop back into Piper Niven and let her be the badass that she is. You can fix all these solo women wrestlers and give them a title to chase when you have Charlotte and Ronda as your fucking title pictures because you don't know any better. Like
WWE Women's Intercontinental title. That should be the be all and end all of it. Just
bring it back. Just like bring it back, like just you can call it the fucking Women's Intercontinental. I mean, Women's US. Something. Like there could be a title name in there somewhere for that. So the All Pacific title.
I've got something for you that's not related to any of this conversation at all, because quite frankly, anything that's not a title in the women's division is kind of boring for me, because that's how WWE has made it. So in live events, the Bloodline is facing off against the Imperium. Did we forget somebody?
You know what? I think in terms of Triple H leading the ship now, I think he's going to position Gunther as being a very credible threat to Roman Reigns.
Yeah,
I think we've all collectively been sleeping on somebody.
I think we slept on Imperium in this conversation.
Yeah,
I think that's probably that's probably the next logical move.
Oh God, can you imagine an Imperium Bloodline War Games?
I'd be sick.
That would slap.
It would be like the Bloodline, and then they would have the three for the Imperium, and then they'd have one extra person. Who is that one extra person?
Sami Zayn.
Kevin Owens.
Or like that could be the thing where it's like, hey, we have the War Games match. It's Usos, Roman, Sammy, and then it's like, hey, here's who our fourth person is for Imperium, and it's just Solo, and that's the turn. People were expecting Jay or Sammy, and then you have Solo right there in that match.
Bash at the beach '96. This match.
Solo's the fourth man. It's just like it. Like, I think Imperium and Bloodline would be a great program. I can incredibly see Gunther being one of the show's world champions. But it just depends on what they want to do. Like, I think it's just that Rock not agreeing or disagreeing to being in that match with Roman. Like, I think that's all they're really waiting on is a solid yes or no from The Rock.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's kind of stalling WWE at the moment. But there is some hope for that, because there was an interview I saw recently where The Rock was asked who the head of the table in the family was. I think he took his shoulder and he said, you want to know who the head of the table is, you're looking at him. And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, so like they're playing
they may have
these
started
seeds,
to build already.
But that match does not need the titles, because
it doesn't.
Rock's not going to win the titles. He's not going to be on TV.
I think they want Roman to beat The Rock to be the head of the table, and then now that he's the head, they give him a few more reigns, no pun intended, and then he drops it. Yeah. I think him beating The Rock is the apex moment, and then the fall happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like every generation WWE does this though. They literally put everything into one guy to the detriment of their product. It was Hogan, it was Cena,
it was Austin.
It was the Attitude Era,
even though it did work.
The Attitude Era had a good distribution of star power.
That's true.
I was gonna say, who was it after Hogan though? Because you don't have a clear one person after Hogan.
They did really draw out the Stone Cold Vince storyline.
Yes,
it was Bret and Shawn in between.
It was Bret and Shawn in between, but that was kind of like the filler arc in wrestling. And then it was John Cena. It was John Cena, and John Cena dominated even to the point of ruining, the Nexus. And
single-handedly.
So my thing is, you're talking about from the 80s to 2007, 2006, 2005 is about there's this long gap from like 90 to 2004 where there wasn't like a guy.
Yeah, but I mean, ever since they've gotten back to the concept of the guy, it's been, it was like mostly Cena, and I think after Cena left, you're really looking at, I think it was like Orton was always getting the titles, and then it's like the Shield came in and they were the ones winning everything, and now it's like, okay, they finally accepted Roman as a heel, he's going to be the guy. And I'm like, no, you gotta sprinkle the star power onto the roster. You can't just have one guy.
Salt me that shit.
Like, if you have a good upper card and lower card, everybody can be a credible opponent. But it's like nobody seems credible right now. It's like when Drew McIntyre, isn't the guy. It's like, okay, then who the fuck? Like,
yeah, Drew McIntyre was like a no-brainer in that situation.
They went to his home country, not his hometown, his home country, and he lost. Like, that could have been a moment that also built to a better feud, where it's like, hey, look, I have one of your belts, Roman. And they could have continued, drawing that out. Then it could have been like, oh, hey, look, the Bloodline's getting involved. Cool, I have this guy named Sheamus and his two buddies. And it's like, you could have just built that program more. It's like, I've beaten you, Roman, and now are you going to beat me and become undisputed again? Or am I going to prove that I'm better than you?
Right.
But they're just like, no, Drew just loses.
I think they're keeping those titles unified, actually.
Yeah, if the brand split is not a thing, just make one single title. Bring back the big gold. Like,
no, don't bring back the big gold.
Bring back the
big gold. The big gold had its time.
Yeah, make a new title.
And this was my idea too. To break the belts. At Survivor Series, it's normally champion versus champion, right? Well, they're not doing all
the reason they
focus on war games.
The reason they can't do champion versus champion is because right now two of their belt divisions are two groups. You have
it's Roman and the fucking
Usos. Who are they going to face? Like, this War Games probably isn't like, let's just do War Games. It's them looking at the fucking like whiteboard and they're like, fuck.
Yeah, we can't do that.
They're like, shit, we can't do show versus show because our shows are being held hostage.
Right. So my idea was, you put Roman in a ladder match against, maybe somebody like Seth Rollins. Okay. Well, he just won the United States champion. Well, this was before he won the United States title. Well, you put Roman Reigns in a ladder match with somebody, right? And the finish would be like, them battling out for both titles. Each person has like a hand on one title. One has a hand on one title. One has a hand on the other. And they just knock each other stupid with one punch. Both of them come down with a single belt. Okay, so that person comes down with the WWE Championship. Roman comes down with the Universal Championship. Technically, Roman doesn't lose the match because he retains the title. But in the course of that, they ruled that he lost the WWE Championship because he didn't come pull it down.
Whoa there. You're getting a little TNA for me there.
I know, but
desperate times call for desperate measures.
But that would make, it's a little TNA-ish, but it makes sense though because
they've written an elegant solution. I've just literally seen this in TNA somewhere.
The thing is, like,
probably
was there just no foresight when they saw Survivor Series was coming up, and they're like, oh shit.
No, they booked themselves into a corner. Is what they did.
It's like, hey, Survivor Series is our champion versus champion show, right? And it's like, why don't we have Drew just win one belt?
So, because the thing is, at WrestleMania, because at WrestleMania, when they did this, they put both titles on Roman. They always had to have. They should have had a plan on how to book themselves out of this, and they can't. They were like, okay, well, how the hell do we break these titles up without Roman losing? And it's like,
the thing is, if
you can't do it.
Yeah, so I don't see somebody beating Roman, getting one belt, and then somebody else beating Roman and getting the other belt.
Yeah, that's the case.
I see them doing a triple threat where somebody else gets pinned, and the person who pins them gets one of the belts. So they don't beat Roman, but the belt comes off of Roman.
Like, what if it's a 2 out of 3 falls match where like the first pin's for this belt, the second pin's
for that belt, and then somebody pins
for
the title.
They're either going to have to do a gimmick match or they're going to have to do a multi-man match. Like, I feel like they're not just going to let somebody beat Roman one-on-one. I think they're going to have to circumvent beating Roman to take a belt off of him.
What if now we do a multi-man 2 out of 3 falls match? We do like say 4 or 5 people. Like seconds into the match, someone just rolls up somebody. 1, 2, 3, takes off with the belt.
Oh god, there's a clip. Somebody tried to do that, right? I think in AEW, one of the matches, or no, it was the New Day.
It was the New Day.
Yeah, they like got into the match, and then like Kofi laid down and Xavier
like
pinned
finger
him.
poke him doomed,
and everybody like pulled him off of him.
Dude.
But I could see like a sweet like fatal 4-way being like Gunther, Reigns, Braun, Drew,
Sheamus. I'd say Sheamus, Drew.
Sheamus, Drew. Like just give the 4, like give the two rivalries get involved.
Yes.
Like, and you can, and it's like
tie together all those storylines all together.
Yeah. From there, it's just like have Sheamus, pin Gunther or Gunther pin Sheamus for one of the titles, and then it comes down to just Drew and Roman, and they can go on for however long they need to go on for. So
you know what we need is a 5-person Hell in a Cell match, just like we did with
Chamber.
No. 5-person Hell in a Cell with the one with Rikishi, The Rock, Undertaker, Stone Cold.
Oh yeah,
that one where Rikishi got thrown onto that fucking hay truck.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
But
I did it for The Rock.
Yeah, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. It's just kind of frustrating that the title picture in WWE, even under new management, isn't as healthy as it should be, where you have all of these great wrestlers in a world title, scene in AEW. It just feels like, we're doing this because we haven't thought that far ahead. And it's like, all right, we're planting the seeds from Mox and MJF, and now we're doing Hangman versus Hangman versus Moxley, and it could become a triple threat. It could not, they still have multiple people in and out of that title scene. For this one's just like, all right, who's the next sucker to fucking get cheated out of a world title by the Bloodline? Like,
they're both. We don't know what's going on with either title right now. Yeah. Like, I think there's a lot going. I think. The other thing I like and don't like about AEW at the same time is that they have title matches every Wednesday. It feels like they have a lot of titles, sure, but they have a title match every Wednesday or Friday. There's just always a title match going on, and I get that makes things important.
That should be the case for the TBS and the TNT.
That should be a case for the TBS and TNT titles.
Wardlow should be on TV doing an open challenge each week.
Everything. Yes. Yeah, because I think the TNT and TBS titles are technically, television championship.
Their roster is deep enough where it's like, okay, Wardlow beats this guy, Wardlow beats this guy. They're not really hurt by it. They're just guys on the roster.
Every now and again, they bring in Zack Sabre Jr. or somebody.
And then they can be like, oh, hey, look, here's the feud starting. And then the week's building up to a pay-per-view, it's like, oh, they're starting to interfere, they're attacking him, stuff like that. So it's like, okay, cool, so we have a story still coming in despite him wrestling other people each week. Exactly. Where I think the only thing, like, that's why the Intercontinental and the US titles feel bigger now, is because they're the only ones we're really seeing get defended. It's like it just feels bad, like you have
I would love it if we had less ROH title matches, as much as I love them, and more
honestly, Tony,
more TNT and TBS championship matches.
Honestly, right now, Tony probably needs to make Ring of Honor a YouTube thing, where it's like, here's where we defend all of our Ring of Honor stuff, and then when it comes to the actual show, those belts aren't on it. Like Jericho can still show up, but it's like, I think this match isn't for the Ring of Honor.
Because you know what? As a matter of fact, the NWA has a show, NWA Power, where they just have like an hour-long series like that every single Friday or whatnot, or Tuesday on Fight TV, but it comes on Friday on YouTube. I would just do that for Ring of Honor.
Yeah, just do that for now. Like, keep it separate from AEW, because technically it is a separate brand.
It should be.
Like, it's just one of those things. It's like, that could be your other show. But you're going to have the Ring of Honor titles involved, and that's it is.
So
I
think the problem you have in doing that is that you do have talent like Daniel Garcia and Daniel Garcia and Chris Jericho, who have the two of the arguably it's the two most important belts in Ring of Honor on AEW programming.
Yeah, and they had the trios belt with Dalton Castle and the boys. Like they've been showing up on Dark lately.
Yeah.
So like those titles are starting to be focused on more, but I feel like
because I was about to say
the time being it should just be an online show.
Yeah, because I was about to say I haven't seen them since the pay-per-view they had. The trio 6-man tag titles.
But looking at the time here, we are about an hour and a half in. So
yeah, well, there's a lot of wrestling to talk about.
There's a lot of wrestling to talk about. I think we kind of covered our main points though.
Yeah.
Right.
Both shows in general have felt better to watch.
Yes, I do overall think the product is better, but it could be better.
People are still arguing it's like, oh, look at that, AEW didn't break 1 million. And it's like, that's fine. The show was still good. Like it didn't pain me to watch it. Like nothing about that show made me feel like I want to switch the channel.
I don't think like I said, AEW does have, very, nicely booked shows. The problem with AEW is just all the stuff that goes on in the back that just happens to end up on dirt sheets. And I think that's what everybody's focused on right now, but not the actual show.
Yeah, and the show itself has been better. And
it's been a lot better.
It just feels like, the roster is deep. They probably need another show or at least more time to get the rest of the roster featured. I think that's the biggest thing is that they don't have enough time for everybody. So I've started to notice like 1 week is these storylines. The next week are these storylines. This week is the storyline. It keeps rotating,
You have 2 shows for that. You have 2 shows for that. You don't need to do that.
They want Rampage to be more wrestling, while Dynamite's like the wrestling / promo, stuff. So I just think
online shows to do the promo stuff.
They also the next thing is like I think they need to have like a dedicated weekly full show just on YouTube. Like even if it's just from the studio or whatever, just like, hey, we're filming this. This will be an actual canon part of, everything. So it's just like one of those things. They just need more time. Their roster is deep. It has great talent, but yeah, they just don't have enough time on TV to show everybody. I mean, I don't think Mero's complaining. Like he's getting paid to just, be at home. Mm-hmm. So I would love that. I would love that kind of job.
Best life with his hot wife.
I would love that kind of job, but also I would love to see him wrestle more. So
yes,
I mean, I would love to see Miro back on television more. Matter of fact, I'd love to see CJ Perry on AEW television eventually too.
His story was getting into the House of Black thing, but then Aleister Black left and Buddy Murphy also took leave because of visa issues. But I mean, you could still have Miro and Brody King just like beat each other up for half an hour. And I would love to watch that match. But yeah, definitely wrestling is just better right now. Like across the board, it's just better. Like
don't take all of our criticisms for us being like wrestling sucks. Wrestling is really good right now.
It's amazing right now.
We have critiques.
Don't get me wrong.
We have critiques and we have feelings about things because it does kind of take away from the importance when Roman is on TV, but he's never wrestling, and he holds both of the top titles. Like it just feels like it diminishes them. That's where my complaints come from.
They just feel like they're in the background right now. And
your world titles are background characters. Like
to the bloodline, which is ironic.
It's just like so those are just like my critiques about it. Like I love WWE still. I love AEW. I haven't watched NXT because ever since the 2.0 change, because I didn't really know like the people on it, and a lot of the people that I liked were either in AEW or on the main roster now. So it's like, why I don't know these guys that well. So why am I even, bothering?
Yep.
But yeah, there's like small things here or there, and I mean, it's a business standpoint. There's probably reasons they're doing stuff. So it's like, I can't argue that, but would like this kind of consistency to continue moving forward. Yes.
And yeah, like we were saying, there's little things here and there that we think would make the product better, but we're just 3 schmucks who have watched wrestling for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I have nothing else.
Like I said, it's been about an hour and a half, so we'll probably just cut here. This is the Without Context podcast. After all, if you like what you see, you can subscribe We're going to have access information in the description. We have our own information down in the description as well. I have Called Another Deep. I've got 12 episodes on YouTube right now. The 13th one will come when it comes. We've got some scheduling conflicts. The real BBEG of all D&D games is scheduling.
Yeah.
And
Always.
yeah, so we'll get those episodes as we can get to them, and I will announce them on Twitter. I'll make a short about it, whatever we need to do. As we can get people recording. I think the next record date for us should be the 22nd, if I have all my ducks in a row.
For the actual
for recording, and then it would show up not the Monday after, but the Monday after that.
For the D&D. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm talking to people trying to get more guests on, so we kind of working with that right now. But it is getting to that time of year with holidays and Christmas, so it's going to be sporadic over the next few months. So
wheels are turning, but we're got to turn harder around this time of year.
Follow the Twitter, and you'll see us apologize for not having an episode up. So
every time.
But yeah.
But we appreciate you guys coming by and watching us. And this has been Without Context. For myself, Sharky, X.
Yeah, X always good to have you here on the show.
Always good to be on here, man.
You're the you're always here for us when we need to fill an episode and talk about wrestling. So
right.
So we appreciate that.
Yes.
But no problem.
Thank you guys. Check out all the links and everything down below, and hopefully we'll see you all next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take it easy.